In 1962, while American car makers were still chasing size, chrome grills, and conservative styling, a strange new car quietly appeared. Its shape was smooth like a spaceship, lacking a front grille, and looked as if it came from a distant future. This was the Studebaker Avanti. Born during the most difficult years of the Studebaker brand, the Avanti stood apart from everything else. It was not a safe product in terms of market trends, nor did it follow any popular formula. Instead, it was a bold and risky gamble, too different for the market to accept at the time. And yet, that is precisely why today, the Avanti is seen as one of the most forward-thinking designs of its era. It captured the fearless spirit of the 1960s, a car not made to please the masses, but to redefine the future. Are you ready to discover that story? By the early 1960s, Studebaker was on the brink of collapse. As one of America's oldest car manufacturers, they were once known for building solid, practical vehicles. But in the post-war era, Studebaker began falling behind in innovation and scale. Sales were steadily declining. Production costs were high. Their models looked increasingly outdated compared to competitors from Ford, GM, and Chrysler. Internally, the company was disorganized, its factories outdated, and employee morale was low. Analysts predicted Studebaker might only last a few more years. In this context, Sherwood Egbert was appointed company president in 1961. Interestingly, he wasn't from the auto industry, but came from a background in heavy equipment marketing and business strategy. This outsider perspective allowed him to think differently. Egbert believed that only a truly radical and distinctive car could rescue the brand's image and energize the company. Not a practical sedan or a new truck, but a bold, grand touring car with modern styling that could capture the imagination of the entire American market. And from that vision, the idea of the Avanti began to take shape. Sherwood Egbert knew that Studebaker could no longer follow the old path. They needed a car bold enough to change how people saw the brand. To make that happen, he chose Raymond Loewy, a legendary industrial designer who had modernized the Coca-Cola logo, created streamliner train cars, and designed many Studebaker models in the past. Loewy assembled a three-man team, including Tom Kellogg, John Epstein, and Bob Andrews. They left the factory environment and worked at a secluded villa in Palm Springs, California, free from corporate restrictions. In less than 6 weeks, they created a completely different design. A fiberglass body, no front grille, a low hood, a steeply raked windshield, and a jet-like tail. Looking at the Avanti, no one would guess it came from America. Inside, the cabin was equally radical. Aircraft-inspired gauges, a driver-focused curved dashboard, deep bucket seats, and machined aluminum trim. The interior felt modern and performance-oriented, something rarely seen in American cars of that era. When Egbert saw the prototype, he did not hesitate. He approved it almost immediately with no major revisions. Time simply did not allow for second thoughts. However, bold design was only the beginning. To turn the Avanti into a true grand tourer, Studebaker needed an engine strong enough to take that design from the showroom to the speedway. Instead of creating a completely new engine, Studebaker chose to enhance its existing 289 cubic inch V8. But this was not a minor tune-up. Engineers reworked the air intake system, upgraded the camshaft, pistons, and carburetor to create 3 performance levels: the Standard, the R1, and the R2, equipped with a Paxton supercharger. The ultra-rare R3 version was hand-built with special cast components, producing over 335 horsepower. The result was a coupe with European flair but American muscle. The Avanti accelerated quickly, held high-speed cruising with ease, and responded instantly to throttle input. Unlike most large American cars of the era, it offered a sporty driving feel while maintaining long-distance comfort. Most notably, the Avanti came standard with front disc brakes. In 1962, this was almost unheard of in an American production car. With that level of performance, Studebaker felt confident declaring the Avanti as the fastest production car in America, and they needed a bold campaign to make sure everyone noticed. Unlike the conservative marketing typical of the era, Studebaker chose to present the Avanti as a symbol of the future. They weren't just selling a car, they were selling a daring new vision in a time when American cars had become predictable. The Avanti appeared alongside models on fashion magazine covers, was displayed at design exhibitions, and photographed with entertainment celebrities. Its fiberglass body and grille-less front were described as engineering breakthroughs. The peak of the campaign came when Studebaker took the R3 Avanti to Bonneville salt flats to set speed records. Images of the coupe racing across the white desert with its supercharger screaming grabbed attention nationwide. As a result, dealers received thousands of orders, customers rushed to showrooms, and the media declared the Avanti a sensation. But just as the spotlight hit its peak, cracks began to show within Studebaker. The engineering team couldn't finalize a stable production process in time. Choosing a fiberglass body helped reduce development time, but it created a host of problems on the assembly line. The body panels produced externally were inconsistent. Many had to be manually modified to fit the chassis. Doors didn't align, windshields were misfitted, and water leaked into the cabin. Each car felt more like a hand-built prototype than a polished factory product. The South Bend factory's production line quickly became overwhelmed. Instead of producing thousands per month, Studebaker managed to ship only around 1,200 Avantis in the first year. This disappointed customers and frustrated dealers. The glowing headlines gradually gave way to criticism over build quality. The Avanti was no longer seen as a symbol of the future, but rather as a clear example of the gap between ambition and manufacturing ability. Yet while the standard version was collapsing under pressure, the high-performance R2 and R3 models quietly carved out a legacy of their own. The R2 was Studebaker's attempt to make the Avanti a true grand tourer. Powered by a supercharged 289 cubic-inch V8 with a Paxton unit, the R2 delivered up to 290 horsepower and could accelerate from 0 to 60 miles per hour in about 7 seconds, an impressive feat for an American car of the era. Cooling was enhanced, combustion chambers reinforced, and the engine performed smoothly at high RPMs. The R3 was even more exclusive. Each one was hand-built, with custom-machined parts, a high-output ignition system, and a rated power of over 335 horsepower. This was the version that made headlines at Bonneville Salt Flats, surpassing 170 miles per hour on salt, all while remaining street-legal. Although only a few dozen units were ever produced, the R2 and R3 are remembered by enthusiasts as proof that the Avanti could have been a legend under different circumstances. But no matter how fast or groundbreaking they couldn't stop what was about to happen to the company that built them. By the end of 1963, the company was forced to shut down its main production facility in South Bend, Indiana. This decision not only ended the Avanti's assembly line, but also marked the beginning of Studebaker's retreat from the American car market. Avanti production ceased after only about 5,800 units had been built. far short of initial expectations. Sadly, many of those were rushed out to clear inventory and recoup costs. Instead of continuing development, company leadership chose to shift focus to smaller cars built in Canada, where costs were lower and union pressure was less intense. The Avanti, once seen as a symbol of reinvention, was abandoned after just 1 year on the market. Worse still, the decision eroded trust among dealers and loyal customers. Studebaker never regained its former standing and officially ended car production in 1966. But strangely enough, even after being abandoned by its parent company, the Avanti never truly disappeared. A new chapter in its journey began with those who had once worked closely with Studebaker. Brothers Nate and Arnold Altman, owners of a major Studebaker dealership in South Bend, believed the Avanti deserved a second chance. Right after the factory closed, they acquired the design rights, fiberglass body molds, and part of the remaining assembly equipment. They founded Avanti Motor Corporation and began building the car under a new name, Avanti 2. The Avanti 2 used a Chevrolet 327 V8 engine and GM automatic transmission, completely replacing the original drivetrain. However, the body design, interior layout, and overall spirit remained faithful to the original. Each unit was hand-built, targeting upscale buyers who wanted a personalized American Grand Tourer. Though no longer backed by a major automaker, Avanti 2 quietly endured for decades, changing ownership, updating engines, and evolving in detail, yet never losing its identity. In many ways, the Avanti outgrew its status as a mere production model and became a symbol of pure automotive passion. But why did a car with such pioneering design, impressive performance, and unique history never become a true success? The answer lies not within the Avanti itself, but in the environment that surrounded it. From the moment it debuted, the Avanti was an outlier. Its forward-thinking design, unconventional materials, and bold marketing made it stand out. But standing out doesn't always mean being embraced, especially when it comes from a company on the brink of collapse. American consumers at the time preferred familiarity. They trusted big names like Ford and Chevrolet more than a brand that was downsizing and closing factories. No matter how fast, beautiful, or unique the Avanti was, wavering confidence kept buyers away. Studebaker also lacked the resources to support consistent production, widespread marketing, or long-term development. As a result, the Avanti was trapped between creative ambition and operational limitations. Even when reborn as the Avanti 2, the car remained true to its original spirit, but settled into a niche. It became an object cherished by a few who truly understood it, rather than a mainstream icon. But that is exactly what gives the Avanti its unique place in today's classic car world. Unlike the Mustang or Camaro, the Avanti doesn't have a massive fan base. Instead, it draws in car enthusiasts who love individuality, those who are drawn to a design philosophy that dared to defy norms. They are not looking for pure speed or investment potential, but for a car that tells its own story. Groups like the Avanti Owners Association International still organize meetups, parts exchanges, and technical support. Original 1963 Avantis, especially R2 and R3 versions, are highly valued for their collectability and historical significance. Meanwhile, many others have been restored with a personal touch, combining modern drivetrains with vintage bodywork. On forums and social media, the Avanti often appears as a forgotten gem, a design that still looks daring even by today's standards. It doesn't belong to the age of mass appeal, but to those who choose to walk their own path. And from that very spirit, the Avanti leaves us with one final question. Could a car that once failed become a legend if born in a different time? History shows that many cars which failed in their time are now celebrated for their forward-thinking vision. The Avanti is a perfect example. In an era where the auto industry seeks vehicles with unique identity, a grand tourer with classic design and modern performance could find a loyal following. If reborn as an electric or hybrid platform, preserving the original design philosophy but integrating new technology, the Avanti could become a boutique brand, much like how Singer reimagined Porsche or Rimac shaped the future of electric hypercars. The key would be to retain its rebellious spirit and unmistakable character. However, the challenge lies in brand recognition. Avanti is no longer a household name. Reviving it would require not just funding, but the vision and consistency that few modern car makers possess. The Avanti was never a perfect car. It wasn't mass-produced, it didn't win Le Mans, and it never starred in a blockbuster movie. But that's exactly what makes it special. It stands as a symbol of courage, of a small automaker daring to challenge the giants, of engineers daring to think differently, and of buyers willing to choose the unfamiliar. The Avanti was never meant to please the crowd. It was built to touch the hearts of those who truly value innovation. If you've ever been drawn to things that go against the grain, take a second look at the Avanti. You might just see a reflection of yourself. Thank you for joining us on this journey. If you enjoy stories like that of the Avanti, don't forget to subscribe, share the video, and leave a comment about a car you believe was ahead of its time, but forgotten. We'll keep telling stories like this, because cars aren't just machines, they are legacy.